Hello everybody, and welcome back to my channel. In this Create tutorial, I'll be going over how to create my custom-made semi-automatic concrete machine, as well as going through how you could create your own machine using the Create mod to produce whatever you want. So first things first, I'm going to kind of show you guys my concrete machine. So I've got this mechanical crafter and this little chest here. And the reason it's semi-automatic and not fully automatic is you do need to supply the dies. Because to actually get the dies automatically crafted, it would take a little bit more work. And you would need like a good flower forest or other biome nearby to get all the dies you would need. So I decided to make it semi-automatic to just supply its own dies. So to actually supply the dies, let's say I'm going to craft some orange and some red. Each single die is going to give you 8 concrete output, which is the same as if you were to craft it by hand. So if I go ahead and toss it in this chest right here, if you give it a second, it'll appear in my mechanical crafter fully automatically. You see, there it goes, crafting concrete powder. And then after a minute, it does take a minute for it to wash. The concrete will kind of come up this belt here into this chest. Oh, there you go. You saw the first red dye go. There you go. So we got our red concrete and orange concrete fully made up. And then if I want to just craft a bunch of it, say I wanted a ton of lime green concrete, I could just throw all that in there and it would go as long as it needed to. It's completely supplying all of the sand and gravel automatically. The only input you ever need to do is the dye itself. And you could absolutely load this chest up, as well as there are 2 full double chest buffers. So you could potentially have 3 full double chests of dye in here, which would give you 8 times that output of concrete. So you can see some of our lime green concretes coming through. And I actually do have a switch built in here, so we can switch it from concrete to concrete powder. So now we can see our concrete powder coming up. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's really easy to use. It's something if you're on a server, you could just like put this in a public space, have anybody come supply their own dye, and just have it make concrete. This is running at max speed, though there is potential to, if you had more mechanical crafters, you could potentially double, triple the speed. Every mechanical crafter is just going to increase your speed output of the dye and the concrete. So if I kind of fly out here, you can see what's going on with the machine. Now I know this looks really complicated, so I'm going to go break this down for you guys step by step, item by item, and show you how it's making everything and how it's going to craft your concrete. So here is the machine, fully stripped down without the room, and I took the time to kind of color the belts so you can tell what's going on where, and like see all the different processes as they're happening. So we're going to start all the way up at the top with our cobblestone generator. So the cobblestone generator has a row of mechanical drills mining out cobblestone, and then we have lava and water in this configuration. What will happen is when it mines out a cobblestone, a new cobblestone will automatically appear without any like water or lava spillage. Takes a second, but it's a pretty quick machine. And we actually are able to get 16 drills in line here. And 16 is kind of going to be your sweet spot. This belt and the drills are both running at max 256 speed. You can't go any faster than that, and if it was any longer, what would happen is the time it would take from the cobblestone at the end to travel to here, it would get here before this block shows up. So when this block showed up, it would show up and it would pop off, and you get cobblestone kind of flying all over your machine and not really being fully used. So 16 is enough. It supplies the machine, it kind of overflows it, so you'll never run out of gravel or sand as long as each has its own line of 16 generators. And then up here, I actually have these clutches on here. So what happens is it's not going to supply the cobblestone unless it's needed. There's a few reasons we do this. One, it's just going to generate a lot of lag, so you don't want this running all the time, your generator running all the time, because you're going to lag out your server or your single player world. Also, we just don't need it. We don't need it running all the time. If we have a pretty good buffer, we can store up a bunch, and then it'll only run when it needs to fill up that buffer. As well as even if we are going at like full speed for a long time, this thing will keep up very well. And then moving down to the next process, we have 2 crushing wheels for our sand and 1 crushing wheel for our gravel. If we look at our recipes for sand and gravel, let's see, we can see that our sand needs to be crushed from gravel, and gravel needs to be crushed from cobblestone. So these are all running at max speed. We crush it once to get our gravel, which is going to be our blue line, and then we crush it twice to get our sand, which is our yellow line. Then after that, we're going to follow our gravel line. So the cobblestone would be crushed, turned into gravel, flow down here around this corner, and then into this loop. The point of the loop is kind of twofold. First of all, it makes sure that there's a constant supply going to all 4 of these hoppers, which these hoppers feed into the mechanical crafter. Because if we come over here to the mechanical crafter, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 slots that are gravel. So we needed 4 lines of gravel being supplied to our machine. And the second part of it is we have this buffer chest. So the point of this buffer chest is to make sure our machine isn't running all the time. So if we were to say, take out a bunch of this gravel, we have a comparator at the back here, which looks at how much gravel is in this chest. And if this wireless redstone link is unlit, there isn't enough gravel, what will happen is this will become unlit, the clutch will deactivate, and we'll get a constant output of cobblestone from our cobblestone generator. And you can see it's pretty much timed out perfectly, where you always have cobblestone coming down, and we're not getting like any doubled up, and we're actually using all of our cobblestone. And it's getting crushed, and then it's going to follow down along the path, down around the corner. And then one important thing to note is all of these belts back here are all running at half speed. So I did have to torque these down to 128. And the reason for that is if you have it running into one of these funnels right here, if it's running direct into a funnel, what'll happen is that 256 is it'll kind of glitch out, and when it gets to the funnel, it'll pop off and you'll lose a lot of your materials. And once this chest were to fill back up, you can see that already the line has started to kind of light up, and once it gets back to half full, it'll turn the machine off, and we'll just have like a little constant supply here without needing it supplied from our cobblestone generator. And then our sand line is mostly the same, but we have 2 sets of crushing wheels, as well as I do have a filter on here, and this filter is for flint and clay, because if you look at our recipe for sand, we get an output 20% flint and 10% clay. So if we were to process 100 gravel into sand, we'd get about 10 pieces of clay and 20 pieces of flint. And this is going to bog down our machine because we're not actually using it. So this chest could get pretty quickly full with the clay and the flint. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling it off of the line here, and I'm just voiding it right now. If you wanted to, this is something that you could pump into your main room or pump into a secondary storage room. If you wanted to keep it around, for the purposes of this machine, I decided to void it. So then coming into actually supplying our mechanical crafter, I believe this is going to become a lot easier with the new Create 0.3 update. Seems like there's going to be a lot more ways to move stuff around, but in the current update, the Create 0.2, the way I did this is we have to feed it through each, so basically each block of the mechanical crafter has to have its own feed into it. So for our gravel, we have this bottom one coming in through the side with a funnel, and then coming in through the top with a funnel. And then our middle is coming in through the back with a funnel right here. And then this top one is fed into a hopper, into another hopper, into our mechanical crafter. And then coming around the other side, with our sand, the middle one is fed from the bottom again. And then the sides are fed the same way, coming around the corner there and around there. And then our absolute middle is actually fed coming up here, into our double hopper, and into our mechanical crafter. And then our dies are just supplied through the back. And I can show you guys right now how the dies are supplied. So we just grab a few stacks of dye, pop it in here. You can see it gets put down on this purple line. And then here's our 2 buffer chests. So you can have quite a bit of storage of dye if you wanted to produce a whole lot of concrete. Then it comes down back here, up this belt, and then right into the back. And you can see that appears right there, and it'll start crafting it up. And then for our mechanical crafter itself, we do want to gear it up to 256. I simply did this with one kind of gearing ratio. So the way gearing ratio work is if you do a large cogwheel to a small cogwheel. So if this was powered, this would be moving at twice the speed. If you did a small cogwheel to a large cogwheel, this would move at half the speed but twice the torque. So we want to speed up our mechanical crafter to get the max out of it. So we've got this right here. So we got a large cogwheel going to a small one. And then that's going to power our mechanical crafter and make sure we're going at max speed. And then once it's done, you have to set up your mechanical crafter in this output and make sure you're outputting onto a belt. The way you change your mechanical crafter output is you right click it with a wrench, and you can see I kind of turn this around. And this is going to be the quickest way to actually make your die. 1, 2, 3, 4 moves, and then it outputs right onto the belt. And then down here on our green line, I have a belt going left and a belt going, the belt's currently going left, I should say, and I can flip it with this lever. So what this lever does is it has a redstone link here, and we got a redstone link here on a gear shift. So when I flick it, it's basically going to change the direction. One way, I've got a wash, and then I have a filter here with all the colors of concrete. So it'll sit on that funnel until it's completely turned into concrete, and then as soon as it's done, it'll suck up, go into the chest. Whereas on this side, I'm just pumping it directly onto our funnel, which goes onto our green line and up into the chest for our concrete powder. So yeah, that's how the machine works. One thing I did not spend the time to do is figure out how much power this would use. Based on previous experience, I would imagine this would use 4 of the furnace engines, which is honestly what I'd recommend. Realistically, when you're kind of building a large machine like this, you're going to be at the stage of the game where you are using furnace engines rather than windmills or water mills. Realistically, you really shouldn't be using water mills for very long. If you played with the Create mod, you'll notice that pretty quick. So yeah, this is the concrete machine. Now I guess I'll kind of just go into kind of like the thought process behind it, how you could create a machine for yourself to produce whatever you want. So let's look through here and figure out what we want to make. Let's say we want to make a sticky piston. So the first thing you want to do is grab your block or whatever you want to make and figure out the recipe. If you are playing with Create mod, I would highly suggest downloading the JEI mod and installing it. I can't imagine why somebody would play it without it. Basically what it does is it gives you crafting recipes for everything that you could need. As part of that, there are some like new crafting recipes. So for instance, the slime ball, we have a recipe to create it without actually having to go out and hunt a slime, which is going to be extremely useful for getting slime balls early game. So then actually looking at how we're going to make the sticky piston, let's start with a slime ball. So our slime ball, we need lime dye and dough. Dough, we need water and wheat flour. Wheat flour, we need to mill wheat. So first of all, we know that we need a wheat farm. So we create a wheat farm, route that into a mill, and we get our wheat flour. And going back to our crafting recipes here, we would need to get our dough. So to do the dough, up here we have this bulk washing option. So if we click that, we can see that we can bulk wash the wheat flour into the dough. So our bulk washing is the same as what's going on right here, where you have a fan going into water. And then by bulk washing that wheat flour, we would get our dough. And we also need lime dye to craft our slime ball. So for lime dye, we need bone meal and green dye. Or alternatively, we can crush any of these flours. So what I would recommend probably is setting up nearby like a flower forest, setting up a flower machine, and collecting all these. You only got a 10% chance to get your lime dye, but it'll save you having to make a cactus farm and a farm to get this white dye. So probably if you set it up a pretty big flower farm and had that going for a while, you could get a lot of lime dye. Alternatively, you could bulk smelt sea pickles, our mixed green dye and white dye. Kind of up to you, whatever you'd want. But you see there's like with the crate mount, there's plenty of options to do things automatically. And then going into the piston, we have our cobblestone. That's pretty simple. We can just set up another cobble machine. Wood, we would have to set up a machine to get our wood. I already did a tutorial on a good tree farm you could use, so you could just take that tutorial and then to actually get the planks, you can just mix the logs, or alternatively you can use a crafting recipe. And any of these crafting recipes can also be done in the mechanical crafter, so you can just keep that in mind. Anything you'd want to actually craft, you could do it in the crafter. And then as for the iron and redstone, you'd probably need to set up vanilla farms for both of these because there's no unique create recipes to create these. So yeah, so that's how you would kind of go about crafting your own machine like this. If you got any questions or comments, please leave a comment down below. Leave a like if you liked the video. And if there's any other create tutorials you'd like to see, just leave a comment and I'll get to it. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.